Good morning and welcome to Wintergreen Studios Virtual Land Art Bioblitz. You have arrived at this session called Getting Started on iNaturalist. Thank you for being here this morning. My name is Jess Pilo. I'm the project coordinator at Wintergreen Studios, and I will be your technical support on the session today. And I'd like to pass it over to our program director, Monica Capavilla, who is your video host.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Monica Capavilla. I'm the program director at Wintergreen Studios and your video host for today. I get the pleasure of introducing Geoff Carter. And Geoff has been with us, I think, for the Bioblitz for the past year, maybe two years. This will be the second year. So Geoff is actually wrapping up his teaching certification from Queen's University. And he's looking forward to teaching about the many ways to be in a community with nature and other humans. So Geoff, take it away.
Okay, so my name is Geoff Carter. Thank you for the introductions, Monica and Jess. Like you said, I'm a teacher's candidate at Queen's, finishing in the outdoor and experiential education program. And now I'm moving on to teaching in British Columbia this fall, unfortunately, but I was at the Bioblitz last year and had an awesome time. I stayed there the whole week and was really looking forward to coming this year, but I'm going to be doing it virtually this weekend, and it'll be a good time too. And I'm excited to share about iNaturalist, which is something I've been using for the last 4 or 5 years. It's an app to help you identify species, but also to contribute to science. So we're going to learn about iNaturalist. I'm going to show you how to use it on your phone and on your web browser. I'm going to talk about how it's going to work for the Bioblitz with these observations. We're going to upload our first observations to the Bioblitz as a group. And I'll share some ideas just for how to make some unique observations, find cool species, just some tips that I've learned. So my background with iNaturalist is I'm a casual user. With us, we have James Pagé from the Canadian Wildlife Federation, and he is an expert on iNaturalist, and so hopefully he'll be able to answer the very technical questions that I may not know about as a casual user. So I'm looking forward to, he might help me out in the Q&A at some points. So we're going to start with how to take your photo on iNaturalist, or take a photo on iNaturalist. And I've composed a quick video of me outside because I can't be outside and on my computer without Wi-Fi. So cue up my video there, Jess, please. Hello, my name's Geoff. Welcome to the 2020 Wintergreen Bioblitz. I'm here today in my backyard to give you an introduction on how to take a good photo for iNaturalist. Let's go find a cool flower. Before we go down and look at this plant, I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about iNaturalist. iNaturalist is an app you can get on your phone, and with this app you can take pictures of species and upload them as observations. You can also take a look at what other people are observing in your area. But that's not all. For scientists, it's wonderful because they can see what people are observing in the area and use that data for their research or just a better understanding of the natural world. So let's start with plants. When you're taking a picture of a plant, start with figuring out what makes this plant unique. Think of the shape of the leaves, look at the flowers, the fruit, the stem. The next thing you want to do is determine how far this plant extends. So I see that there's multiple plants in here. So try to determine which plant is which before you take your photo. The next thing you want to do too is take multiple photos, if you can, of the same plant to upload for your observation. So different angles, move things around if you need to when you're taking your photo. Keep in mind the 3 P's. No pull, no pick, no pocket. Now let's move on to observing an animal. When you're observing an animal, it's just like a plant. You want to take 1 or 2 or 3 photos of the animal. You also want to figure out what makes that animal unique. You want to look at the shape of its beak, or some of the other defining characteristics. With insects, they're really small, and sometimes you can't get it down to species. Still take a photo, and we'll get as specific as we can with identifying the species of the insect. When you're looking for bugs and other critters, it's a good idea to turn over a rock and see what you can find. Got a few there. When you're doing this, keep in mind that this is their habitat, so don't leave the rock overturned. Gently put it back. That's their home. Also, if you see a frog or other amphibian, don't pick it up with your hands. They have very sensitive skin that can absorb whatever's on your hands, be it sunscreen or insect repellent. The final thing I'll say about animals is that if you have a camera with a good zoom lens, that'll allow you to take good photos of birds and large mammals. It'll also allow you to keep a safe distance from these animals. Now that you have your photo, let's get that observation on the map. Thank you for all indulging me in that low budget video of mine, taken over multiple days, as you can see by my clothing change. So this is kind of my perspective as a casual user of iNaturalist and how I use it. We have the privilege for this Bioblitz to be partnered with the Canadian Wildlife Federation, and they have a few videos about iNaturalist and how to use it. And so I'm going to share with you a video made just this morning, just released by the Canadian Wildlife Federation, about how to use iNaturalist using the mobile app. And then I'll go through sharing my screen with my phone and the web browser for how to share an observation live during the session, and then we'll all do it together. So next thing is to show that video produced by iNaturalist and the Canadian Wildlife Federation.
You've installed the iNaturalist app and created an account. Now you're ready to make a valuable contribution to conservation. Every photo or sound recording is a record of a living thing that can be used to quantify biodiversity, track invasive species, locate species at risk, and much more. Evidence of any living thing, like a plant, animal, fungus, tracks, or sound recording, can be an observation on iNaturalist. Once you find something you'd like to record, just tap Observe on iPhones or the green plus for Androids. You can choose to take a photo, choose no photo, or on some devices, record a sound. Check to see if sound recording is an option on your device. If you're observing something that is better captured with a digital camera, like needing a zoom for a faraway bird or a macro lens for an insect, you can take a placeholder photo in the app or choose no photo and add the digital picture later by editing your observation on the iNaturalist.ca website. This gives the benefit of capturing the date, location, and any notes while on site, and adding a better photo later. If you're taking a photo with a mobile device, you can review your picture once done and tap Next or OK if it looks good. To identify it, hit What did you see? If you have internet connection, iNaturalist will suggest visually similar species and the species group it belongs to. You can choose one of those or write the species name in yourself. It's okay if you don't know what it is. You can simply add the general group, like lichens, and people in the iNaturalist community can help you identify it. If you don't have an internet connection, one option is to come back to edit this observation later, once you have internet again. On the observation details screen, you can add more photos of the same organism or write a note. This could include details that might help others confirm your identification. The date, time, and location should be automatically added. If they aren't, check the location services in the settings of your device. You can also change the geo-privacy of the observation. Open will allow others on iNaturalist to see the location. Obscured will randomly buffer the true location, or private will ensure that it doesn't show up on any maps. Mark whether it's captive or cultivated, or add it to a project. Once you're finished, tap Share on your iPhone or the check mark for Android, and your observation will be uploaded for everyone to see and identify. you can uncheck the automatic upload box in the app settings if, for example, you would like to go back and edit your observations before they are submitted to iNaturalist. In this case, observations are stored on your device until you manually hit upload. Get to know what's living around you. Join iNaturalist Canada today.
So I'm going to go over the way that I use iNaturalist. And so I'm going to be sharing my screen on my phone. The way I do it is I don't have a data plan. So I go out, and as I'm going for a walk, I might not even be going specifically to look for different species. I'm just casually walking around. I see something that interests me, like this morning, and I take a few photos. So I'm just going to share my iPhone screen with you all. You'll go to the App Store and go find the iNaturalist app. Once you have the iNaturalist app, which I already have, you'll open the app and you'll come onto this home screen. As you'll see in that video that we just saw, that was an Android phone. Mine is an iPhone, and the home screen looks slightly different. And some of the features aren't the same, like you can't upload a sound. And here on my home screen, we've got all the species that I've observed. So I have 96 observations. As you can see, I'm not a big time observer. Some people have thousands. So yeah, this is just, it's not a full-time gig for me. It's just something I enjoy doing from my phone. So this is some stuff from last week. Some stuff from yesterday, and then so once I'm ready to observe or to add some of my photos from this morning, I hit observe, the middle button, and I could take a photo immediately. Oh my goodness, you can get inception of phones here. Or I can go to the photos, which is the bottom right corner, and look at some of my photos from this morning. I've got what I think is plantain this morning. And if I like that photo, I can hit next, bottom right, or I can choose another photo. You also note that at the top here, you can add another photo if you have a different angle, or if you have a better camera, you can add a photo from that. The first thing you'll see too is, all right, what did you see? So that's the species. But first I'm going to check on the other information. So the time, we've got the location noted, Victoria Park in Kingston. I can, if I don't want you all to know where I live, I can obscure that in the geoprivacy settings. It's not a species that's captive or cultivated, so I won't select that. And it's already, as you can see in the project, it's already been added automatically to the Virtual Land Art Bioblitz since I've already joined the project. So for species, you'll open that up and it'll start giving suggestions if you have a Wi-Fi connection like I do now. So it's loading some suggestions now. I'm pretty sure this is a plantain. I'm not sure if that's the most specific species name I can get. So yeah, it's telling me American plantain, and it's got important notes here, like it'll tell you that it's visually similar, so the picture looks the same as the photos that they have in stock, and it's been seen nearby. They'll tell you that as well in the app. And so I think it's American plantain here. Not sure. I can hit the I on the side of American plantain, Plantago rugeli, and that'll take me to some more information about American plantain, some other links, but I can also look at other photos of it, maybe in different seasons, what it looks like, and I can go through them that way. So I'm going to select American plantain because I'm pretty sure that's what it is, and I'll share that observation. And that's getting uploaded to iNaturalist, and it's getting uploaded to the Bioblitz project from this year automatically. While that's happening, I'm going to go to more here and show you all how to join the Bioblitz project from this year. So in the more bottom right corner, you'll go to projects, and I've already joined, but you all need to look at projects nearby. And if you just pull up there, you can get to a search bar and search up the Wintergreen Land Art Bioblitz. And then once you get in the project, you just have to hit join, which is the top right button. For me, it's leave. For you all, it should say join. Great, so great, my American plantain observations uploaded. It's also part of our virtual Bioblitz this year. And so the next step that'll happen is people will start to add comments to what I've put. So I recorded a sensitive fern last week, and I'm noticing that some other people who use the app also agree. And so DBMCC09 has said, yeah, it's sensitive fern. Someone else has also said it's a sensitive fern. Some people may disagree with your observations, which is fine. It's all part of correctly identifying what species it is. It's also possible that your photo wasn't accurate enough to identify the species. I'm going to quickly go over now just how to do it on the web version. This is important if you're using a digital camera. So I'm going to share my screen once more and take you into the web browser. One important thing with the web browser, which I didn't know about, new to me, was that you'll have an account created, and this is what your home page will look like. And under your profile, you'll want to go to Edit Account Settings and Profile, and make sure that you are using iNaturalist.ca and not iNaturalist.org. So automatically when you create your account, you're added to iNaturalist, so everyone will have this selected if you've just created an account for this event. But we're encouraging everyone to use iNaturalist.ca instead. So there's three benefits to this, three main benefits. And one is that you get bilingual observations, so you can get English and French, which is good pour des personnes comme moi, des francophones. And then it also doesn't include suggestions of species that are outside Canada. So when you're looking at suggestions of species, it won't tell you that it's a plant in Arizona. It'll only show you what you can find locally. And so that'll limit your list of suggestions for species. And it makes it easier for Canadian conservation organizations to access this data when they're doing scientific studies. So just make sure that you're flipped on to iNaturalist.ca instead of iNaturalist.org, and hit save after you do so. And so with iNaturalist.ca on the web browser, it works a lot in the same way. When you've got your photos on your camera, you hit upload. And from there, I can start choosing files. You can drag and drop, which I'm going to use that feature. So I have a couple photos on my desktop from this morning. Also, before I drop this in there, I want you to note as well that it's allowing you on the web browser to use sounds, which is possible with Android, as well as to do sounds directly. And we also noticed from playing around that you can use stuff like scat and tracks as well in iNaturalist, and it'll give you suggestions of what it thinks those scat or tracks are. There's a few different options. There's SoundCloud and other ways of adding observations. I'm gonna add these mushrooms I found just on the street. On my walk this morning. It's loading the data from them. There you go. So we've got the date, location automatically set. I have no idea what the species is. And so just when I just hovering my mouse over the species name here, it'll start loading suggestions. I may have to just leave it as a mushroom, which is fine. You don't have to get it always down to species. You can leave the general family or the kingdom if you have no idea. That's completely fine. I'm not, so it's got all sorts of suggestions for me. And I don't know which one is which. It thinks it's a psilocybin mushroom. I'm not sure about that. So I might just leave this species blank. And I can even submit it without a species name to help being identified later. And it's all the same settings for how to edit the data. So we got, yeah, captive, cultivated, all that stuff. So I'm going to submit that observation. And that'll automatically be added to the project as well once you've joined. There's also the option, not on the web browser, but on your phone to add no photo observations. And we're encouraging people to also use that feature. So when you go to observe in the hit the button observe, there'll be an option for no photo, and you're welcome to do that. If you've seen a blue jay but you weren't able to take a good photo with your phone, say that you saw a blue jay and add that as an observation through the app, and it'll be added to our species count. The only thing with not having photo is it can't be a research grade photo because there's not people, you can't confirm what you've seen, and scientists can't necessarily use that data. The next thing we're going to do is all upload our first set of observations together, because this is what we're doing all weekend, and I'd love to start seeing that page getting busy. So I think, so what I'd suggest is take a photo maybe of a house plant you have, or a pet. Even at this point, just make sure to indicate that it's captive or cultivated. And yeah, like if you have a pet tiger, we don't want to think that there's tigers in Kingston, so make sure to hit captive. And yeah, we'll upload that stuff together. So maybe let's all take the next 5 minutes here, and I'll share the screen to show live all the new observations that will be coming up. And then I think we'll move to a Q&A, and hopefully I can answer some of your questions from there. Awesome. So I'm seeing some chives, some buttercups. Oh, nice. I see some new stuff. Shall we move on to the Q&A now and see if I can help answer some questions?
Geoff, I'm just wondering, there seems to be a little bit of trouble with people finding the project.
Okay, I'll try that again.
Could you go over it again and just kind of point us to it and show us what it looks like?
So I'm going to share my screen on my phone again. So I'm going to search for the project nearby. I'm going to make sure I get the spelling right. Virtual. I forgot to include virtual. There we go. Now we're finding the project here. And once you get to the project, you should be able to hit join. So I'll leave. Wow, I'm seeing a lot more observations in there now. And then I'll hit join.
And we just got a note here from James Pagé from the Canadian Wildlife Federation. He mentioned that if people have just downloaded the iNaturalist app and have just created their account, there can sometimes be a lag time in the app to be able to find the project. So if you give it a couple minutes, it should be able to locate the Virtual Land Art Bioblitz. And for that, he suggests using the website. I guess it's just a little bit quicker on that end. So if you are having trouble, give it a few minutes or try to find the project and join the project online via the app.
Great. Thanks, Monica. And thanks, James. I'll just go through then how to join the project from the web then. So you'll want to go down to community at the top, projects, and search bar, Virtual Land Art Bioblitz. And there we go, we're finding it. Awesome. I'm seeing that James here is taking the lead. We've even got leaderboards for everyone, which is a new feature at the Bioblitz this year. You'll notice too that for the Bioblitz, it's anywhere in Canada. So anyone that's joined the project anywhere in Canada is able to post observations this year from June 5th to June 12th is the period.
If you're ready to, Jeff, we could get the Q&A started.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, so feel free as we're going through this too to add your questions to the Q&A. Right now there are two questions we have here. The first, and I'm going to shout out to Geoff Carter here, but also James Pagé if he wanted to piece in and give his expertise as well. The first question is, what's your experience with using tracks or scat photos on iNaturalist or other evidence of a species without the species itself? For example, a beaver lodge or a bird's nest. I wonder if you can touch a little bit more on that.
Yeah, so the auto recognition software, so for identifying, uses basically the database of photos that are already in iNaturalist, which globally there's tens of millions. Most of the photos are of wildlife, not of scat and tracks. So the identification is still catching up with as more and more observations get added. The idea is that the people are to upload evidence of what they saw. So it doesn't have to be the species. That's where, as Jeff was saying, like a tracks or scat or beaver lodge is perfect. So it's evidence showing that a wildlife species was there. And even if the image recognition software isn't good, there's a lot of experts on iNaturalist that can help identify that from their expertise too.
We even heard a bit about that in Kenny's presentation earlier, where he was saying, I'm sure that snake is there, but he didn't necessarily actually observe that snake. So people that look at these species a lot know when something's there, even if they haven't directly seen it. So evidence can definitely be used.
Jeff and James, we have another question coming in here. So if somebody had already joined iNaturalist and was submitting their observations, if they had submitted an observation prior to today, so prior to June 5th, will it still show up in the project if the project's just opened, I believe, maybe 12 a.m. this morning?
It won't show. You'll have to re-upload the same photo again for the sake of this Bioblitz. It still exists on the iNaturalist website or network, but it won't be in our project specifically.
Yeah, totally. And the other thing is, if you have observations from today and if you only join the project like
tomorrow or like physically join or able to because you couldn't find the project right away, then everything will work retroactively as of today's date. Anything you've seen as of today, even if you join like next week, will go into the project even retroactively. But the parameters are set to start today, and actually it runs till Friday next week. So there's a week long where we can all contribute and record observations.
It's to do with the timestamp on your picture as well.
Timothy says that his observations and photos are not being added to the project, and he's joined it through the app. So I know that, James, you were saying that there is, or Geoff is, a time delay on it. So if they are joined through the project, any projects they have joined, if they make an observation, it automatically logs it as part of any of the projects that they are in, correct?
That would depend on the project. So it depends on how the project is set up. This one here for the Virtual Land Art Bioblitz is set that if you've joined the project, your observation will automatically be added as long as it meets the criteria of the project, which means it was observed as of today until Friday. If it was seen before, as we were saying, it won't go in. Other projects may not be set up that way. They may just be, you have to physically add them to the project, or you don't meet the exact criteria. If they're only looking for snake observations and your observation is of a plant, it won't automatically go in. That automatic adding feature is actually something recently, was only launched about 3-4 weeks ago. So if the projects were created before that, some of them will automatically add. It really depends how it was set up.
In other years, we have not logged exotics in the species counts, only native plants. How do you and other iNaturalist aficionados feel about adding cultivated plants? This comes from Rena Euphides, the executive director at Wintergreen Studios, because she says there are lots of beautiful irises in the Wintergreen garden at the moment, but they are not native to this area.
I think it's important to just indicate the cultivated aspect when you're in iNaturalist. So say that I've grown this plant specifically in my garden, and that's why you have that feature. So it won't make it to research grade quality, but it's still an interesting thing to add to iNaturalist if you want it to. I'm not sure if it'll be added to our species count. That's a good question.
You have to check the way we set up the project was set up. They may exclude exotics. I don't know. Yeah, and generally in iNaturalist, we're trying as much as possible to really focus on the wild species. There's a lot of captive things that become wild, like invasive plants and that. So those still would count, but it's something that's like you've intentionally planted. Yes, definitely you can upload it to iNaturalist. But you know, we're trying to hopefully focus as much as possible on the wild things. One option as well is if you're looking at your garden plants, you can always look for the insects and the pollinators that are visiting your garden plants to help add to like the knowledge of the native and wild species that are around too.
So guys, that's all the time we have for the Q&A. Geoff, you wanted to kind of close things up or had something else to say?
Yeah, so I just had a few ideas because we were talking to James yesterday and saying that a lot of people have hang-ups about what do I look for at the Bioblitz this weekend? What do I put up on as an observation? And so one, I like to say 3 things that I tend to do when I'm looking for species. The first thing is being still, and that's a really important thing. So as soon as you're still, you start seeing new things. When you're furiously looking for different animals or plants, it's hard to really see, but once you stop and you see like things going by you, like you might notice a bee all of a sudden when you might not have when you're going for a walk. So be still, number 1. Number 2 piece of advice I'd have is just go to your backyard and identify everything you don't know what it is. So look at maybe like the weeds that are growing in your garden, add those. Like James was saying about bees, the pollinators visiting your plants. Yeah, just take this time to figure out what's in your backyard. And then the third thing I'll add is do a little research. So if you're you love Kenny's presentation and you want to go look for snakes, do a little research about how to find some snakes in your area and go to those areas, and at different times of the day affected as well, or after a rain can also be a factor. So yeah, that would be my 3 pieces of advice for this weekend. Anything else to add, James, real quick?
Yeah, actually, I'd add an easy one that everyone can do who has a porch light, is if you leave your porch light on at night, you'll get a lot of moths coming to your front door or back door. If you want to encourage it even more, you can put up a white sheet. They're more attracted to the white colors. So you could leave that out and take your photos even at that night, or some of them will still be hanging around the next morning too.
Well, that's all the time we have for the iNaturalist session today. I just wanted to send a big thanks to Geoff Carter and James Pagé for this mini tutorial. I just want to give a quick update. We're up to 26 members for the Virtual Land Art Bioblitz 2020 project. And so far, we are 16 observations and counting. So keep going, get out there, and see how we can work together to use the citizen science project. I'm going to pass it back over to Jess.
Thank you so much to our speakers and to Monica for hosting, and to our attendees. And I hope to see you at the next session.